happened here, Miss Appleby?
It's all in here. Something I've been avoiding my entire life.
You know, my wife brags about what a good listener I am.
Well, it was shortly after Christmas of 1944 when my entire world turned upside down. Before that, I was pretty much like most kids my age. Well, my mother did always used to say I was a born racketeer. She'd tell her friends now, if only Hitler could, if only President Roosevelt could unleash me against Hitler and the Japanese, the war would be over within a month. Times were difficult for us during the war years, especially with my father away.
What, the Enterpriser?
My mother would say that was an understatement.
Is it yours?
No, it's my mother's. Are you in a hurry to get home, Mr. Cunningham?
No, Rebecca's out Christmas shopping. She'll be out till at least 10. I've got time to spare.
Would you mind if I shared a little of this diary with you? I'd like a little company while I read it, if you don't mind.
No problem. Well, if you don't think it's too personal.
Well, that's precisely what I'm afraid of. To my precious little Maggie, if you're reading this, then I'll know that you've grown up. I can only hope you've lived a constructive and a decent life, one filled with joy and achievement. The feelings expressed in the following pages are random accounts. I thought you might enjoy them. Forever with love, Mother.
How did she know you'd find her diary?
Oh, she knew. She knew I'd eventually return to retrieve a part of myself left forgotten in the past.
Miss Appleby, if you don't mind my asking, what happened here?
Well, this might shine a few clues. And this is as good a time as any. Have a look, shall we?
Yeah, that's good.
October 9th, 1944. It's been cold today with a slight breeze coming in from the east. Nothing particularly exciting is happening around town, except for the usual gossip regarding Mr. Heisenberg. Zona is still her delightful self, forever spreading rumors. I haven't received anything from Richard for nearly a week now. God knows I miss that man. And poor Mrs. Coolidge, but I'll get to that later when I'm not so tired. Richard would be so proud of little Megan. She's a true baseball fan at heart, especially with being a devout Cardinal fan. He should have seen her as Emil Verban drove in 3 runs in the 6th game of the World Series.
Well, I guess so.
Judy, if we look at it, we're asking for public clothes.
Wait a minute, Meg! Jason, do you want a shave?
Well,
Jason.
well, sure, Miss Appleby.
Right, give us another second.
This is going right in 106. I want you both back in the folded. I'll get you the room.
Come on, Judy, let's hurry.
Hello? Yes, I realize what the date is, Mrs. Sterling. Excuse me, Mrs.
Sterling. No, I'm not ignoring you. Yes, I realize that. I realize the importance of your last letter, and I'm doing my very best to accommodate your request. But if you don't mind, things have been extremely difficult around here. No, I'm not just making excuses. Yes, I'm aware of that. I don't need to be threatened, Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling, I won't permit you to use that type of language around me. Well, Mr. Sterling, if you insist, then bastard! Good evening, Miss Goldberg. You're doing a little shopping today.
Hello, Patrice. Do you have anything for me?
Well, let's see. Goldberg. Gooden, Goldstein.
Don't you have them in alphabetical order?
Well, yes, usually yes, but when it gets busy like this, they oftentimes get mixed up.
I should come before Golden.
Well, yes, you're perfectly correct, Miss Goldberg. Perfectly correct.
I know.
Please, just another minute. Please be patient with me.
You should have the broth simmering this time. I believe I'm the only Goldberg in town.
Yes, you're perfectly correct on that count, too. Please, I know you had something. Just another minute or so. Oh, here it is.
Oh, how much do I owe you?
I believe it would be 10 cents.
This was received 4 days ago. Why wasn't I notified? I asked you a question.
I believe I placed the call to your house on the same day it arrived. I spoke with your son, Ian.
Oh, he's an idiot. That explains everything.
Miss Goldberg,
Yes?
I have a delicious broth recipe. You'd like to borrow it sometime.
Perhaps. Thank you. Asshole.
Mrs. Everett,
Mr. Heisenberg.
have you seen Widow Greta? She was supposed to be home half an hour ago.
She was here listening to the game with the rest of us, but she left during the 5th inning. She said she was headed straight home.
No, she's not at home. If you see her, tell her I'm looking for her. Will you?
Certainly, Mr. Heisenberg. Certainly I will. Oh, Mr. Heisenberg. I apologize, Miss Goldberg.
So it is very kind of you, Miss Everett, but it is not necessary.
But she's carrying a lot of pain.
We all are, Mrs. Everett. Well, I hope I haven't bothered you.
Oh, Miss Coolidge. Excuse me. Nothing today, Miss Coolidge.
Do you mind if I sit for a while? Something might arrive.
Well, nothing usually comes in after 5.
Just for the wait.
Right. Make yourself comfortable. Miss Coolidge, I have some fresh coffee in the back if you care for some. I make a great pot of coffee.
Yes, I believe I will.
Thank you. I couldn't resist the cookies. But Heisenberg is London to bake, and I must say these are very tasty. I'll have to try one. Thank you. Careful with that coffee. I left it on the burner a little too long. You need a splash of water?
It's fine, thank you.
Forgive me, Miss Coolidge. Your husband's name is Captain Harold Robbins Coolidge, isn't it?
Yes, yes it is. Have you heard anything?
No, no. But if I do, I want to be absolutely sure I'm contacting the right folks.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. I hope you don't figure me too nosy and asking, but what became of your husband? Now, I have a selfish interest in the subject since my husband, First Lieutenant Richard Appleby, he's currently in London awaiting orders, and I'm nervous as hell. The sleeping at night time, it's the worst. I've never gotten used to sleeping alone. How is it?
What?
Do you ever get used to feeling your husband may not be coming home?
He's coming home.
Well, I'm not saying that he's not. I just feel like...
Mrs. Appleby, my husband is a very brave man. When the Army informed me that Harris B-17 had been shot down over France and declared missing on presumed day, a little voice whispered in my ear these exact words: "He's alive." I trust in that little voice that whispers in my ear, and that's why I'm waiting for him to come home.
What did it sound like? The voice, I mean. What did it...
It's clear and it's sure.
But what did it sound like?
It's a combination of what I said and the feeling you have inside. You'll know it when you feel it. There's no mistaking it for anything else.
Oh, I got a lot of words jumbling around my head most of the time. How do you tell the difference?
You'll just know.
Mrs. Appleby! Mrs. Appleby! Greta, Mrs. Appleby! My papa's gonna kill me! Greta, what on God's earth are you frightened of? He's going to beat me, Mrs. Appleby! Why? He thought you tailored me behind Simpson's lumberyard. We weren't doing anything. He can't beat you for that.
Oh, yes, he can. He doesn't want me talking with boys. Susan dancing to the death if I do. And that's all we were doing. We're just talking.
Schnell!
I wasn't doing anything, Papa.
This is a family matter, Captain. Obey me!
Mr. Heisenberg, please, can I make a suggestion?
This is my business, Mrs. Appleby. We solve our own problems. Come, Greta. Do not make it any worse.
They say he's Nazi.
Mary Depot, may I help you? Hello, Clyde. Oh, really? How long ago did they leave? Oh, Clyde, what was the total amount? Yes, Clyde. Yes, I'll give them the message. Thank you.
You've probably heard the rumor going around concerning Mr. Heisenberg, haven't you?
No, I'm afraid I haven't. But I'm sure you're about to inform me, aren't you?
Well, not unless you'd rather not.
Oh, I'm not about a piece of good old juicy gossip. What are they saying? He's sprung a pair of horns underneath the hat he wears?
Nothing like that, but people are talking about him being, You know, I feel ashamed of even mentioning it now that I come to think.
You baked the pie, Miss Coolidge. Now it's time to serve it.
Well, you must remember this is only what I've heard. I by no means am one to start spreading it.
If you don't say it, you might forget it. What I'm going to is it.
Well, do you remember when Mr. Heisenberg moved into town 7 years ago with his young daughter, Greta, and 18-year-old son, Friedrich? Do you recall how quickly his son returned to Germany to live with his mother?
There's no crime in that, is there?
Well, of course not. But they say he has 2 older daughters still living in Germany, each having nasty husbands. Apparently his daughter Gertrude's husband, Hans Richter, is an SS stormtrooper. And Stella's husband, Henry Wagner, is a Nazi Luftwaffe fighter pilot.
So what dark shadow does this cast on Mr. Heisenberg?
His son, Friedrich, is a German Panzer tank commander. Now, I know this may sound ridiculous, but people are starting to think he may be spying for the Nazis.
Spying? What's he supposed to be spying on? Most folks in these parts are growing wheat or raising pigs.
Well, I don't know, but that's what's going around. I just thought you'd want to know.
Well, I'll never look at Mr. Heisenberg quite the same. Not after discovering that he's a potential pig spy.
Simon!
Maggie and Jason, can I have a word with both of you, please?
Sure, Mom.
Jason? Mr. Brindle's racing dog?
I don't think so, Miss Appleby.
Well, you grow your facial hair awfully fast. Oh, Mr. Brindle is using the blunt side of his razor.
Mom?
Hold it right there, young lady. You've already got 2 feet in the stew pot. You sure you want to submerge your whole head? I don't know how you got Jason involved with this, but I'm surprised by your actions. What am I going to do with you?
Mr. Brindle always takes bets on the World Series. I figured it would be a good way for Eddie to pick up some money.
That's gambling.
So it's running this little busty ball. I just figured we could use some money. Big now strapped we are.
That we could. That we could, but I don't endorse gambling of any kind. You understand me? Jason, I guess you had your place to bet.
Yes, Miss Appleby.
Both of you get washed up for stuff, but we will talk about this later. By the way, Megan. Mr. Brindle called. Says he owes you both another $5. Now who can watch that? Go on, get back there. Where will we at? Pigsty?
I'd forgotten all about that. Mr. Brindle was not only a great barber, but he was an honest man.
How much did you win?
No, it was about $15. It was enough to put towards the mortgage payment. Times were tough back then, and you had to do things to pick up the slack. Naturally, my mother and I didn't always see eye to eye on my methods, but, well, she never denied the money once I put it in her hands.
Who was Jason? Hired help? Like,
Oh, he was much more than hired help. Jason was my dearest friend. People made fun of him because he wasn't like others. Jason was retarded. He was a 10-year-old trapped in a grown man's body. Most of the time, he didn't even know his own strength.
how did he happen to get hired on?
Now my mother felt sorry for him. She found him lying in the dirt bleeding outside the apartment that he and his older brother Louis shared. Story has it that they were both abandoned by their folks who were farm laboring drifters when Jason was only 12. Louis, who was only 2 years older than he was, watched over him, but he took to drinking. Well, that got the best of him at about age 37. One day, in a fit of drunken rage, Louis threw Jason out. They found Louis the next day, dead on the kitchen floor. I loved him.
Jason.
Yes. Are you getting tired, Mr. Cunningham?
Oh, no, no. You know something, though? My mother's name is Greta.
Oh, well, it's not a common name, but I personally have known several Gretas in my lifetime.
What was she like?
Greta?
Yeah.
Oh, she was a dreamer. A born romantic. Always full of hope of meeting Mr. Right. She was troubled, though. I mean, with all of that talk about her father, made her wish she was someone else. I swear, that girl lived inside her dreams more than she should have.
Do you know whatever happened to her?
I'm not sure. My mother and I left this town shortly before my 13th birthday. We moved to Maine to be closer to her family. We lost contact with everyone here the day we left. Well, are you ready for more, Mr. Cunningham? December 19th, 1944. Being the big movie fan that I am, I'd like to report that Mr. Louis B. Mayer is a tremendous scoundrel for leaving his poor wife after she attempted suicide several times. And shame on Ann Miller for allowing herself to be seen with a man of his base character. I find it difficult to understand how thousands of screaming young women can find that skinny, oversized Adam's apple Frank Sinatra so desirable. He may have a moderately decent voice, but I do believe he'll fade into obscurity before the end of the decade. Bing Crosby's my favorite, and I just loved him in Going My Way. I'm deeply troubled by the new actors of today. One in particular is a young man who speaks as though he's got a dirty sock in his mouth. His mother should be ashamed of naming him Marlon. What kind of a name is that for an actor? I promised Maggie we'd see this new picture called National Velvet. Oh, I think she's got an innocent crush on Mickey Rooney. But for that matter, everyone does. I got a letter the other day from my sweet Richard. He says he's eating well and getting plenty of rest, even though being drilled hard for what many believe to be a major push into Germany.
Give my little girl a kiss for me. There's never a moment your memory doesn't comfort me. Your Richard forever.
How romantic, Mrs. Appleby. I was too young when the war started to have a boyfriend with the service. Now there's no one else to get.
Trust me, Greta, it's a lot more painful than you think. Consider yourself lucky. When this war is over, you will have pick of the litter. A cute girl like you.
No telling how long that's going to be. So for my kids on major disappointment. Thinking that realistic when being young men on.
Be patient. Life is a way of balancing things out.
Certainly hope so. Because I found the wrinkle on the right off that before. At this rate, I'll 30 before the war's over.
Greta, I believe you'll be walked to your front door by more than one man before your chin starts to sag.
All right, Mrs. Appleby. My friend understands how it is.
Let the things take care of themselves in God's good time. Trust me on this. You'll be the wiser if you do.
Okay.
Hey, what are you doing?
Ready to have my baby back.
Why? Is it a little cold just like that? What's the matter with walking then?
We get cold like that.
Well, as long as it makes perfect sense to you, I guess I shouldn't have to worry.
No, Mom.
Do me a favor and don't run on the lake.
We never get any thought.
And do head home before you turn blue.
Sure, Mom. May I help you, Miss Wilbur?
You're getting paid, aren't you?
Naturally. She's a fine worker, too. Anything she can do for you, Miss Goldberg?
He is one of them, you know.
I beg your pardon.
A Nazi. Mrs. Appleby, if I'm to do business in your establishment, I want to be assured of my safety.
I'm aware you're referring to Mr. Heisenberg, but I'm afraid I don't get the connection between his involvement in the Nazi Party.
But you're unaware of my daughter, Mrs. Appleby. She's a beautiful girl. Her name is Martha Louise Zimmerman, And she unfortunately made the mistake of remaining in Germany, abiding by her husband, Rolf Zimmerman, who owns a butcher store in Berlin. I haven't had any word from her since October 43. And I fear the worst, Mrs. Appleby. I hope you can understand.
Yes, I do. I do. But this is America and it's different here.
Mrs. Appleby, switch last names with me for 1 week and you speak differently. Any messages?
Not today, Mrs. Goldberg.
Miss Goldberg, my husband Richard is currently in London awaiting orders to invade Germany. I love him very, very much.
Why is she so mean?
She is just taking care of her own, Greta.
My papa loves his country. He is everything Heather stands for. He's a quiet man, a man with a strong will and simple meaning for life. I feel the freedom has hurt him deeply. He will not talk about it. I believe this is why he holds me so tightly.
Greta, the night will pass. It will pass and life will be sweet again.
Mrs. Appleby, has anything arrived from you today?
I don't believe so, Miss Elizabeth.
Would you please look for me?
Of course I will. Thank you.
Mrs. Appleby?
Yes, Greta.
Would it be alright if I took my lunch break now? I finished all the Nebraska chores this morning.
That would be fine. You going out for lunch, Greta?
Yes, I'm meeting a friend at the diner.
Nancy?
No, just a friend.
Oh, I see. You'll be back on time, though.
Yes, the usual time, of course.
Greta,
Yes, Mrs. Appleby?
enjoy your lunch. I'm afraid nothing new has arrived since early this morning.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
I have a fresh pot of coffee in the bag if you care for some.
Well, I am in a slight hurry to take care of some errands, but if it wouldn't be any trouble.
No trouble at all. It just needs to be poured. Would you mind sitting at the table?
Not at all, thank you.
I told Greta any chocolate chip this time. You have to tell me what you think of them.
Heavy on the chips. But very good, thank you.
I've already had plenty of those. Miss Coolidge, I don't even know if you have any children. I've got my Maggie who's 12.
Harold and I lost our son 7 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought that up.
It's perfectly all right. You see, I've learned to accept it. There was nothing that we could do. He had polio.
Oh, I see. What was his name?
Michael. The doctors encouraged us not to blame ourselves, but when your child suffers like he did, it's difficult not to feel responsible. Harold, I'm afraid, is never recovered from our loss.
Miss Coolidge, you're a strong woman.
I choose not to fight against what God isn't here.
Oh, death frightens me. I wake at night in a cold sweat, fear of losing my Richard. Every morning when I check the Western Union and I fill the mailboxes, I hold my breath till I nearly burst out. For fear of finding an envelope bearing bad news, and every time the door opens, I stiffen at the thought that someone will be bearing ill tidings. Miss Coolidge, your husband has been missing for nearly 1 year. How do you cope?
Choose path we must all follow. Until I receive word of Herod's fate, I'm going to hope for the best. Through acceptance, I have learned that life will continue to play.
All right, Jason, straight to the shower. Act like midwife connected your organs.
Hi, honey. This is my daughter, Maggie.
My name is Becky. She still thinks I'm a little girl.
You always will be. How was your run?
Fine.
Jason looks half froze to death.
He's taking a hot shower.
Honey, this is Miss Coolidge.
I know. Oh, Miss Coolidge.
It's my pleasure, Mary.
You know, I hope you're not distracting Jason from his work. He still has chores that need to be done.
No. Do you think you know already, Jason and I haven't come down that much? I've got enough money for the both of us, though.
You know how I feel about wasting money elsewhere with perfectly decent food right here.
Just this once more.
All right. But do me a favor while you're down there. Remind me to be back on time, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Nice to meet you, Miss Coolidge. Jason, hurry up!
A spirited young lady, if I may say so.
She is a spitting image of her father. I tell you, Hitler doesn't know what he's in for with First Lieutenant Richard Appleby from Parenthood, Maine. Lord, I love that man. There's a moment I don't worry about his welfare. I just hope that he stayed away from those brick girls. I've heard awfully disturbing things about them throwing themselves out, guys.
War brings out many things in people that later wouldn't have publicized.
What are you planning?
I'm a realist, Mrs. Appleby. For the duration of this God-forsaken war, you now belongs to an entirely different world from the one that you and I know. You may do things there that you wouldn't even dream of doing here, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I like to think otherwise.
That's fine. But when he returns home to you, you'll never know the complete truth anyway.
I beg your pardon? My husband is a decent man. He's a God-fearing man, a moral man. He would never think of doing anything of that nature any more than I would.
I apologize if I've offended you, Mrs. Appleby. I certainly have no intention of alarming you, but there are some things in life that you just have to accept. My Harold is the sweetest, most gentle man that I've ever known. Before we entered this war in 1941, I could no more bring myself to believe that he could harm a single soul on God's earth than to ever doubt his love. Mrs. Appleby, my husband, has dropped thousands of tons of bombs on innocent women and children, the same as you and I. If my man returns home to me safely, I know he's got to be changed. The Harold that I knew, he won't ever be coming home again.
Is everything all right?
Just fine. Go on to your lunch. Go and enjoy your lunch. Don't forget to remind Greta.
I won't.
You're not, Jason.
Well, yes, Miss Appleby, I'll keep an eye on her.
Come on, Jason.
Go on.
Well, I better be on my way. Thank you, Mrs. Appleby. You have a delightful daughter.
Thank you. Miss Coolidge, I never have cared much for surprises of any kind. I'm afraid that when it comes to the realities of war, last in my class, do come again for coffee, will you?
all right, Lee, he survived the war. Turns out he was shot down over France in 1943. The French resistance shielded him and one other crew member from the Nazis. Her husband was badly wounded, though. Required many months to recuperate.
Did you ever meet him?
No. No, we were already gone when he returned.
And your father?
Are you ready for more, Mr. Cunningham?
Yeah, yes I am. Yeah.
Oh, dear. These pages appear to be glued together somehow. Oh, it must be the age or moisture or something. I don't want to tear them.
Now here, give me a look at it. I'm used to peeling the skin off an apple. This really shouldn't be a whole lot different.
Oh, be careful.
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Well, what do we have here?
Anything more about Mr. Coolidge?
These pages are glued together by blood.
Let me take a look. No, this could be some kind of juice or something.
No. It's blood.
Well, how can you be that sure?
Stand.
What's it say?
December 22nd, 1944. I'm still shaken by Mrs. Coolidge's visit, but she means well. The days have been a little colder than usual for this time of year. A matter which deeply concerns me is Greta's preoccupation with boys. She failed to return after having lunch with Nathan Johnston the other day. Every time I look on Mr. Heisenberg's face, I see nothing but sorrow and anguish. I can't help feeling sorry for the man. Greta's a very sweet girl, but she should be more thoughtful of her father's feelings. And what can I say about my little Maggie? I know she's up to something. She and Jason are acting very strangely.
Jason, do the portrait. 17.
Megan, I have to tell you something.
18. What?
That hurts.
It's supposed to hurt. 19.
Oh. This isn't fun anymore.
It's not supposed to be fun. You're in training.
My stomach hurts.
You want to be ready for tonight, don't you?
Yes, but I don't.
No, but Stacy. At the sound of the bell goes late round and you're breathing hard and your eyes are pulling shut. It's very important that you can dig deep inside and come up with a big surprise. Picture it, Jason. You're against the ropes and late round with eyes swollen shut. What are you going to do?
I don't know.
I'll tell you what you're going to do because you trained harder and you want more than the other guy. You're going to dig deep inside and come up with a big surprise.
What surprise?
The big whammy.
Whammy?
Yes, the Clackmaster. Look at that punch. The Tweety Bird tap.
Megan, I don't understand.
You'll knock him on his ass.
Oh.
Now, do you see why we're training like this right now? Good, now roll over. 20. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 28. 29.
Please, excuse me. But is your mother in?
No, she stepped out for a while. Is there anything I can help you with?
No, I suppose not. Do you mind if I wait for your mother?
No, not at all. 38.
How many more, Megan?
Are you going to count times and kilometers, Jason? This is for your own good. Trust me. 9. 30. 1.
Come on, let's go.
Can I offer you any coffee, Mr. Hasenberg?
Thank you. No. I'm here to tell you
I
that
believe we'll be more comfortable sitting at the table. Do you mind? I apologize for interrupting you, Luke. You were saying?
it's about Greta.
I presumed as much.
She will no longer be working here, I'm afraid. Mrs.
Why?
Appleby.
Why?
She must learn discipline.
She's a wonderful worker. She's courteous. She's well organized. She always finishes her work on
You
time.
do not understand.
What is it? I'm not understanding, Mr.
Please,
Hasenberg. Is it true, Mr. Hasenberg, that you beat her on occasion?
What? Beat my daughter?
Yes.
So she has two.
Yes, I'm afraid so, and on more than one occasion, I'm afraid.
And you believe
Oh,
her?
frankly, I don't know what to believe. I only know she's 18 years of age. You treat her as though she was 7.
We have our own way, Mrs. Appleby.
Yes, I'm aware of that. May I be candid, Mr. Hasenberg? Greta is a bright and beautiful young woman, and it isn't uncommon for a woman of her age to be interested in young men. Certainly you'll not deny her from meeting and marrying the man of her choice one day. Why are you so harsh on her?
There are things that you don't know about me, Mrs. Appleby. I left my country, my home that I loved, because I couldn't tolerate one man's insane dream. That changed. I left the mother of my 4 children because of it. My son and my 2 daughters refused to return my letters. Greta is all that I have left. I'm an American now, and I want my daughter to do the right things. People talk about her, how with boys. There is a wrong way and a right way when one decides to start a family. Greta is confused, and it is my duty as her father to help her choose the right way.
I respect your concern, Mr. Hasenberg, I do. America is greatly different, though. Traditions of all kinds are disappearing every year. Your daughter and those like her are the hope for the next generation. As difficult as it may be for you, you need to learn to allow growth in her. It's a cornerstone America is built upon.
She will no longer be coming here, Mrs. Appleby.
But that certainly wasn't the last we saw of her.
You know, I've only met one Greta in my whole lifetime, and that was my mother,
What was her maiden name?
Sutherland.
Did she live around here in 1944?
No, she said she was from Kansas, lost both her parents at an early age, no other family to speak of. My father, Benson Cunningham, he met her while driving north on business. She was a waitress, I guess he caught her eye. The other way around, the story always seemed to change from his telling it.
And then he brought her back here?
No, my father decided to pitch his tent in Kansas.
But what about the farmland?
Well, he kept it. Actually, he had hired hands to work on it, so he just started a bigger spread there in Kansas, where they lived. He died in '55, like I said, and Mom passed on in '76. Am I boring you?
Heaven heavens, no, Mr. Cunningham. I love family history.
Well, anyway, a few years back, I decided I needed to change, so I just sold the farm and moved the family here.
Family roots are an amazing thing. Did you ever have the opportunity to trace your mother's ancestors back and her relatives, the Sutherlands?
Didn't really have much call to. I mean, she didn't talk about it very much, and we didn't ask. I guess we were family enough. But what about you now? Do you stay in contact with your family?
My mother, Patrice Appleby, passed away in 1987. We should have met her back then. It's criminal how life can reshape a person. One minute you think you know them, the next minute you're looking at a stranger.
Hey, you know something? I'm curious about that. What, flour sack? What the hell were you up to?
Oh, you are you?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Brindle was not only in charge of the major sporting events in town, but he was also responsible for the annual Christmas boxing match held every year on December 23rd. That year, I think it was his little way of helping us, the townsfolk, get a little bit of extra money for presents. Anyway, it was supposed to be a big secret, but, well, I caught wind of most secrets flying around town. And that year I decided to enter Jason in that contest.
But didn't you say Jason was retarded?
Well, in his mind, yes, but in his physical strength, he was as strong as an ox. I knew with a little bit of training, he'd be a sure bet.
Yeah, but at 12, what did you know of boxing?
The sweet science?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know how to box, but I could read. I checked out every single book on the subject at the library. Mrs. Thatcher, the librarian, she'd look over her glasses at me every time I gave her the gavel. I told her that a student at school was giving me a hard time. She confidentially advised me that the uppercut was the best punch.
Did your mother ever find out what you were up to?
Well, let's see what she wrote about herself.
Yeah, that's...
December 23rd, 1944. I sent off another letter to Richard. I love the quiet times in the evenings after the house has been put to rest, when I can share my thoughts and feelings with him. As I write, I visualize him reading each word, the rise of an eyebrow, that funny smirk on his face, the infectious way he laughs, and that special look in his eye. My heart is forever embraced by his loving eyes. I hope he writes soon, because my heart feels as if it could dry up if I don't whisper another of his sweet, loving words soon. I don't recall her ever talking like this. She kept all of her feelings deep, deep inside. Mrs. Goldberg behaved in a fashion today that makes me ashamed to even say this has been a highly troublesome day. I am greatly annoyed with Maggie. At times I wonder if she's possessed and should see a minister. There's no telling what she's up to most of the time. With the will of a locomotive and the resource of an unabridged encyclopedia.
Go ahead, forgive me.
Messages?
Let's see. sorry.
Ralph insisted. In spite of the news, he was stubborn, didn't want to start over again. We've always started over again. It's been our way for generations. Now it's all gone.
Are they positive?
Before she died, she wanted to be sure that this would get to me. Martha would be pleased now.
Truly, I don't even know what to say.
We move on as we carry our memories.
This over.
For you, Mrs. Apple, your daughter is still alive.
Yes.
Mörderer! Verfluchter Schweinehund! Denkst, kannst mit uns machen, was du willst? My daughter spits on you!
Try to understand, Mr. Heisenberg.
Oh, but I do understand, Mrs. Her daughter has been taken from me. Will you post this for me, Mrs. Epstein? Good.
Explains where the blood came from. Now, what round was the knockout?
Well, it was a process of elimination. Jason was having to fight several men before the actual title match. So by the time he got into the ring, he was exhausted from head to toe. The other guy was just a little bit larger than he was, but he looked a little ragged around the edges himself.
All right, well, where were you during the fight?
I was in his corner, of course. I was his trainer. The only thing I knew I wasn't going to be able to do after reading all of those books was cut him. Oh, I knew I wasn't going to be able to stomach that.
All right, so the fight got underway. Then what happened?
Well, they danced and they hugged their way around through 3 rounds until Jason slipped after about the middle of the 4th round. Well, he managed to get to his knee by the count of 5 and succeeded in staying away from the fellow until the sound of the bell.
Was he afraid?
I don't believe I ever saw Jason outright afraid of anything. He had the most innocent eyes, without a trace of fear.
All right, so when's the knockout?
It was the last 20 seconds of the 7th round. Oh, they were both panting pretty hard. Jason had a steady stream of blood running down his left eye, causing him to be blind except for his right. So, Mrs. Thatcher, the librarian, she was right about that uppercut. That punch lifted that other fighter a full foot off the mat and in between the ropes. If it hadn't been for the 3 really large women in the front row, he would have been seriously hurt.
What was your mother's reaction?
Oh, at first, she was so angry. But then, when I put the money on the counter, she started giggling like I'd never heard her. It was short-lived, though, when she saw the bloody towel draped over her open diary.
Oh, yes.
I had forgotten all about that. We had the best Christmas Eve supper that year, and Mother didn't get any threatening telephone calls for a long time after that.
How bad off was Jason?
Oh, he mended well. But you know, I don't believe he ever really, truly understood just how important that victory was for Mother and I.
Yeah. I don't mean to be pushing this, Appleby, but it is getting really late, and my wife will be getting home before too long. Is there any more you'd like to read before we leave?
I am so sorry I'm holding you up.
Oh, no, not at all. I'm enjoying myself. I can sit for a while yet.
Are you sure? I mean, we could leave now if you'd like.
And Mr. Mother's account on Christmas Eve? Oh, no, ma'am.
Well, suit yourself. I don't want your wife thinking things, Mr. Cunningham.
She knows I'm just like a cow out to pasture. I always come home.
Okay, here we go. December 24th, 1944. We had a slight drizzle early this morning. Everything outside smelled fresh and the sky was clear. Mr. Brindle brought by a box of candy and a newspaper for Megan and I, but I couldn't figure out why he had circled the names of a half a dozen horses.
Now, you're supposed to place a bet if you're going to stay in the game. Go for the real station.
How much do I bet?
Well, if I were you, I'd go for broke. Older than kind of fan you got.
Okay. I win.
Not too fast. Lay down your cards and let's see what you've got.
I win.
Hold it! Aren't you interested in seeing what I've got?
Okay.
A royal flush beats two of a kind.
You said go for broke.
Lesson number 1, Jason. Don't ever trust anyone while playing cards.
Megan, Jason, let's get going around shores. We got a sick bus coming any time now. Jason, grab it, make sure the floors are clean. And I'll maybe go on in the back and take the coffee. I'm gonna run down to the diner and get some extra donuts. Hurry up, they're gonna be any time.
It's Christmas Eve, Mom.
I don't want any complaining on Christmas Eve, young lady. Who knows, there might be an angel on board that bus. Hurry up now, let's get going. I'll be back real soon, okay?
Do you remember your father very well?
Father? He was tall.
What else?
I don't know.
Is that all you can remember?
Loud. He was loud.
Anything else?
No.
Sometimes I look at the pictures my mother keeps in the bottom drawer of my closet. I've forgotten a lot. The faces we mentioned, I still remember his voice, especially his laugh. There are nights I can remember them crying. It seems like forever.
You cry?
No.
I cry sometimes.
You do?
Yeah.
How come?
Louis. My brother. I miss him.
Do you know what happened to him?
He's looking for work so he can come back and get me.
He's not coming back, Jamie.
He'll be back.
Don't you know what happened?
He'll be back.
He's not coming back,
He'll
Jamie.
be back.
He's dead, Jamie. Your brother is dead.
No, you're lying.
They were lying about little
You're
Wayne.
lying. Louis is not dead.
Yes, he
He's
is.
coming back to
Yes,
get
he
me.
is.
No, he's not.
Yes, he
Don't
is.
say that.
Yes, he is.
Louis.
What did you say?
Nothing.
You must have said something. You wouldn't run out like that
I
otherwise.
said something. He's just a set. That's all.
People don't just run out like that and something horrible said, Maggie. No, I want an answer.
You're the same as him.
What is that supposed to mean?
Matt's probably dead. You don't want to believe it.
Maggie, what are you talking about? Maggie, come back here, Maggie! Oh. has just informed me that you'll be spending the night. We're sorry about the inconvenience.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, young man.
Do you know where I can take this letter to mail?
Oh, you're in the right place. This serves as a post office. Here, I'll post it for you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, young man. Young man, you have a first name, so I don't have to keep calling you that.
Yes, ma'am. It's Stephen First Class, Michael Jolly.
Michael will do. I'm Patrice Appleby.
My pleasure, Mrs. Appleby.
Could you step over here for a moment? Looks like there's no address on this envelope.
Must have been her.
Oh, it happens all the time. People come in wondering why no one's answering their mail. It makes them feel pretty stupid. I'm not saying that you're stupid or anything like that.
Of course not. Thank you for catching my mistake.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. Appleby.
Off to war, are you?
Yes, ma'am. I received my orders the other day.
Where are you from?
Traverse City, Michigan, ma'am.
It's a long way from home.
As far as I will be in the coming weeks. I'm shipping out on my first cruise.
What's the name of your ship?
I can't give out that type of information, Mrs. Appleby. It's against regulation.
Right, I should have known better. Now I'm the one who feels stupid. Come on.
You know what they say, loose lips sink ships.
You're perfectly correct. Perfectly correct. I guess being from a small town, that's easy to forget.
Yes, ma'am. I suppose it is.
Miss Appleby, are you okay?
I'm just thinking, Mr. Green. This door to my life has been nailed shut all of these many years. I thought it was because it no longer held any meaning for me. Time can't conceal what's truly important. Want to hear something funny?
Yeah, sure.
With the exception of tonight, I haven't shed a tear in nearly 50 years. Not even when my mother passed away. Isn't that horrible?
Yes, it is.
Does that make me a bad person?
I remember my mother on the day my brother Charles died after his tractor accident. Our house was filled with family and friends all seeking to bring a little comfort our way. You know, my mother, always the consummate hostess, sought to inspire all those who were down in the mouth about his passing. I don't recall ever seeing a tear drop from my mother's eye. Not even at the funeral. Oh, there was talk from others. They thought it was strange behavior. I knew she loved him. And now that I think back on it, I realize that she had a big hurt in her life somewhere. She's just trying to cover it up somehow. Until the day she died, she never talked about it.
Thank you for sharing that with me, Mr. Cunningham. Well, there's still more written on Christmas Eve. December 24th, 1944. He was pleasant enough. Seemed like a fine young man. There was no way of telling what was to happen later on. Because of the bus being broken down, we were forced to make accommodations as pleasant as possible, being as it was Christmas Eve. This is where things started going in the wrong direction.
Michael? You're welcome for the donut.
No, thank you, Mrs. Appleby.
You don't like chocolate.
It's all right. I'm really not just hungry.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put them up, keep them fresh. Let me know if you change your mind.
I will. Thank you.
Okay.
No. I'm not calling him Mrs. Appleby. I'm old enough to make my own decisions.
Yes, you are. You are, but he deserves better than for you to run off into the night like this.
I love him, Mrs. Appleby, but I can't live inside his world anymore.
I don't expect you to. Greta, there's a right way and a wrong way to go about this. You're blind to either.
I know you mean well, Mrs. Appleby, but nothing you say is going to change my mind.
Greta, you're perfectly within your rights as a citizen. But morally, I have reservations about what you're doing. One condition I ask of you, I want you to write down on a piece of paper where you intend to travel, and a number where you can be reached, just in case he needs to be notified of anything important. I swear I'll keep it in confidence.
You've never lied to me before, Mrs. Appleby.
I don't intend to start. I've got paper and pencil right here. Here's my notes. One more thing. Your father arrives before you leave. I had nothing to do with this.
To my grave, Mrs. Appleby.
You'll be needing a ticket. Here you are. Let me know if you'll be needing anything later. I've got blankets in the back, too.
Strange night to be traveling, it being Christmas Eve and all.
Yes, it is. What's the matter with the bus?
I'm not sure. it started making this horrible grumbling sound. We were coming up the grade. Then it started sputtering and jerking. Until a loud bang was heard, followed by a large cloud of dark smoke rising from the engine.
I certainly hope it's fixed by morning.
You sound like you're in a hurry.
Well, I am, actually.
Where are you headed?
Kansas,
What's in Kansas?
a friend. I figured I needed a change.
Changes are good. Provided the character building changes.
Oh?
Yes. The worst kind of change is when you're running from something. The key is to be sure you're running to something, not from something. Oh, like I'm doing now. I'm headed towards a heat change in the Pacific Ocean.
You sound as if you're happier going off to war.
I am. From a Navy family. It's in my blood.
But aren't you worried? I mean, just a little?
Don't worry about the branch falling on your head if you're getting shaved. My daddy used to always say, can't worry about things happening to you if they haven't even happened to you. One day at a time. Take the problems as they come.
I'm Greta.
Oh, my manners aren't the best in the world, but I've never refused shaking for the girl's hand. I'm seeing first class Michael Chalk.
What are you doing here?
Hello, Greta.
Hello, Jason. Where are you going?
She's off to Kansas.
Kansas. What are you doing in Kansas?
She's got a friend.
Is he going with you?
No. Why? He seems to know a lot about you. We just met. Megan, don't you have something else you need to be doing right now? No, I don't think so. I feel like I need some fresh air right now. Would you be interested in joining me?
Seems like a nice night. I'd love to.
He's gonna miss his shit.
Maybe, Jason, I can use both your help in the kitchen.
There are times I feel like buying a one-way ticket myself. Come on.
Greta! Greta! Miss Appleby wants you to come inside.
better not. So, do you have a sweetheart?
Sure. And I did. She came right up to me and said she wasn't about to be waiting for no sailor boy. War or no war.
That wasn't very nice of her.
No, I suppose it wasn't. I admired her honesty, though. There's nothing I hate more than a liar.
Were you right?
Of course you will. I ain't got no other girl to share my thoughts with.
You're not just saying that, are you?
You heard what I said. I hate liars, and I ain't one of them. Believe me.
I want to.
Until tonight, what I wanted more than anything was to get into battle so I could prove myself. I don't care what happened. Just as long as I made my family proud of me. But it's funny that now, as I look in your eyes, part of me wants to be on my way to Kansas.
Really?
Yes, I do.
What are we going to do? That's not possible, is it? The bus will be leaving at daybreak. You should get some sleep, huh?
We can sleep on the bus.
I guess we could.
What I feel like.
I think I do. Yes.
I completely forgot where she said she was off to.
Whatever happened to Greta and that sailor? Is there more written about them?
Well, there's only a few pages left in the diary. Isn't that a strange thing? I mean, more than half the diary's left undone.
You know how diaries are. They start off like a rocket and fizzle like a match.
True. Well, do you want to push on, or do you want to...
Yeah. Just push on.
Okay. Here's that last bit. December 25th.
Miss, I'm sorry, but I don't understand.
What is there not to understand, Mr. Cunningham? 49 years ago, my mother caught Greta in the act. It's pretty simple.
It means there were two Gretas in Kansas.
Oh. what are the odds of that happening?
Percentages are rising with each new page, Miss Appleby.
Reserve your opinions for the last page, Mr. Cunningham. December 25th, 1944. For a day meant to bring thankfulness and good cheer. I don't recall a more sad chain of events occurring in one place or time. I never knew I had such strong feelings for her, but when that bus door swung shut and I saw Greta waving to me for what might be the very last time, I swear I broke into tears that flowed freely long after the bus fell from sight. The exhaustion I feel as I now write makes me wonder if I'll complete what really requires the length of a novel to explain. I'll do my best. Christmas Day morning was cold and overcast. The buses were still running, so I remained open for the early part of the day. I was still reacting to Greta's departure and anticipating her father's arrival when Mrs. Coolidge walked through the front door.
Miss Coolidge! I just had under control. Thank you for your office.
Are you going somewhere?
I'm needing a one-way ticket to Indianapolis, please.
On Christmas Day?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Oh, no problem. There are plenty of tickets left. I guess you already knew that.
Yes, I did. I kept the schedule.
Family?
My husband,
He's alive?
they notified me at my front door. Can you imagine that?
That's wonderful.
He's all right. Oh my God. He's got his arms and legs and things.
Oh, God, I'm really happy for you. I know what you went through.
I'll be catching a train out of Indianapolis, Maryland. That's where they're keeping him. I'm going to find a small place to stay so I can be close to him until it's time to bring him home.
That voice you were hearing, it was right.
Yes, it was. You?
Oh, I still got a lot of words jumping around my head. I haven't started what they are yet.
We'll keep listening and you'll know when the time comes.
Do you think so?
There's one thing that I'm still not sure of. Will Harold be the same man that I said goodbye to 2 years ago?
Like you said, Miss Coolidge, the war changes people.
Well, this is as good a time as any.
Here you are.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Appleby. Remember that small voice. I pray this safe and returns home to you.
Good luck. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you, Bob.
Oh, got that out. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Bye, now. Take care. Good luck. Miss Collins, where are you? Miss Collins, can you come back here for just a minute, please? Here's for you. What's this? Greta's cookies. She made them special for you. Lay on the chips.
You know, I will have a thing for you.
You told me what to listen for.
Oh, thank you. I love you too. Oh, okay.
You better go.
Bye now.
Bye now.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Jason.
Merry Christmas, Miss Appleby.
I love you, Jason.
I love you too, Miss Appleby.
Oh, I have
Maybe know that you're in trouble.
Okay, I will.
Miss Appleby, we see that this is posted by tomorrow. Did she like the bracelet?
Actually, I haven't given it to her yet.
Why haven't you?
Well, I just want it to be special.
Mrs. Appleby, you know where I can find my Greta?
She's gone, Mr. Husband.
Gone.
Greta left this morning.
Where?
I can only tell you that she left.
This is all you can say to me.
I'm truly sorry. I know how much this must hurt you, but she's old enough to make her own choices in life.
You can't leave so probably you won't tell me back. What gives you the right to keep her from me?
Oh, me, Mr. Heisenberg. If she were an adult woman, I'd tell you to flash her whereabouts, but this is her decision.
I make the decisions, Mrs. Appleby. I know what is best for her.
Apparently she thinks otherwise.
She is too young to think.
Perhaps she'll write later. I'm sorry, I'm truly sorry.
I have lost everything.
She just needs time, Mr. Hasselberg. She just needs time.
Mrs. Appleby, you have a daughter, don't you?
Yes, I do.
How can you do this to me?
That was between you and Greta Frost, her decision. Love has a way of taking away from us those we love for the strangest reasons. I too find it hard and difficult. I don't understand why.
Mr. Heisenberg, I feel your pain. a child has no religion or nationality. Merry Christmas to you, Miss Appleby.
Merry Christmas.
I'm at the door.
From her again?
I don't know. My mother and I lost contact with everyone here when we left. I do remember getting a letter from Mr. Eisenberg mentioning that he sold his farm.
Suppose he returned to Germany after the war.
I'm not sure. What do you think?
He never found her. Suppose he did.
Well, that's the end of the diary.
Now, I'm curious about one thing. Whatever became of Jason?
I thought you'd ask. On Christmas morning, I found a note on my desk. It was from Jason. He didn't write very well, but he got his meaning across. It simply said, "I'm going to find my brother Lewis. Love, J.D."
Sad.
Not really. Not really, Mr. Cunningham. Most people spend an entire lifetime chasing illusions. Hitler can attest to that.
Yeah, now that you put it that way. Before we go, I'm curious to know what happened with you and your mother. Did your father make it back from the war?
On Christmas morning, my mother came to me trembling and in tears. She said she'd had a dream in the night. She said she heard a whisper. Others.
What did it say?
It was for my father. She said she heard, "I'll see you soon." When I heard that, I somehow felt responsible for having said what I did. Mother tried to convince me otherwise, but I carried that burden with me through most of my life.
But you had no way of telling.
Oh, I know that now. But seeing her not remarry all of those years, I felt partially to blame.
People did suffer a lot during those war years.
Yes. But they lived a lot too. And the older I get, the more fond memories.
Amen to that, Mrs. Appleby.
We did get a letter from Greta.
You did? When?
Shortly after my 13th birthday.
What did it say?
She said she had just given birth to a boy. And that she'd had unfortunate news regarding receiving first-class Michael chocolate. He lost his life serving his country aboard a destroyer in the South Pacific. That was the last we heard from him. Merry Christmas, Mr. Cunningham.
Merry Christmas, Miss Appleby.
Well, I guess I do need to get going. I still have that plane to catch. I thought you would enjoy this more now. From Mrs. Zona Goldberg. Oh, my love. Mother.